Ever hear the story about how Rumpelstiltskin met the six? Well, there were six people at the bar, and they were all demonic and horrible. And they barfed all over, and they shat in the corner. And when the bar was closed, they wouldn't leave their clothes on, and they ran around 5 times around the bar, and the bartender left and quit. And Rumpelstiltskin, who is not really a real person, but not a person, decided that the bar had to be left open. So, well, I don't know. He just walked around and saw all of this mess, and he called everybody there the Six. The Six are hardcore alcoholics who are incredibly mean-spirited and won't leave anybody alone. And Rumpelstiltskin doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have napalm, he doesn't have an atomic bomb, because he lives in the virtual reality and he's a human playing the part of a Rumpelstiltskin, which is like a character from medieval history or something from Europe about somebody who could spin straw into finely woven gold, because I don't even know. So the Six are just really bad drunks, and those Six are never seeming to be drunk to me at all, because in the virtual reality they're not. But the backstory doesn't match who they are, and this is what I live with: total virtual insanity of an imposed virtual reality that you can't see around me, and I don't see Pokemon Go going around here, but I can sense the electronic manipulation of my brain, so it seems like there's things flying around here, but clearly they're not, and they're not. It's electronic virtual reality imposed upon me from God knows where, some high-tech thing getting in the hands of madness, and madness is what drives the people who do this, and in the end they're so bored. Clearly their living is all looked after. I don't know if they eat or not. I've never been able to figure out if they're real people or artificial intelligences blended with real people. At one point, we were given the idea that they belonged to the U.S. Navy at the Portland Navy base, and it was an operation run by a Navy captain who was perhaps deep state, so it doesn't report to the U.S. government, reports to the 1% directly, and their commanding admiral looks the other way because they're too afraid to do anything, because there's nobody in the U.S. military who actually reports to the president, because everyone knows that Joe Biden is got such bad dementia that no one listens to him one way or another. The madness of the mad. Planet insane. And all the phony baloney about World War III on the television is clearly phony baloney, because Vladimir Putin, who's been in power in Russia for so long, isn't really in power, and he's looking really old and puffy. He reminds us a lot of John Travolta in the movie Pulp Fiction. Well, that was the main commentary. He hadn't been on TV since Welcome Back, Kotter, and he's looked puffy. But if you go back and you look at that movie now, those initial criticisms of Travolta don't seem to be true. He doesn't seem to be that puffy. Why do I say that? I don't know. People just look back and say he doesn't look puffy, but he was called puffy in those days. We don't want to tell you too much about anything, because if we told you that we're demonic people and we're running Bob Burrows, then, you know, we've told you the story. And our end game is simply to torture him because we can. And we want to kill him, and today they want to take my eye out. Choke me all the time. They really do attempted murder on me every day, and somehow this body doesn't die, although it's horribly, horribly sick from all of this horrible, horrible, horrible electronic harassment. It doesn't die. It's been 6 years of horrible demonic assault that's exhausting and tiring, and yet the body keeps going. It's like a Timex watch. And I can't get the words out because Brent Beeson, who loves to call himself Brent Beeson, because he doesn't even remember his original name, because his backstory is phony baloney that he's an alcoholic. His real truth is that he belongs to Google Labs, and he reports to somebody who doesn't report to Scott Dougal at all, but somehow Scott Dougal is from my hometown, and my personal history is that I know them, and he's a vice president, at least at Google, and he won't tell me why he thinks he's involved or why he doesn't think he's insolvent, because there's also kinds of talk sometimes that the people who are demonically attacking me are running out of money, which doesn't make any sense, because how on earth could Google be running out of money? So we have nothing but stupid stories running through my mouth, not even my stories, because electronic harassment means that I don't even get to say what I would say. And if I did, I would probably say, I can't stand it anymore. There was a movie called Network a million years ago, 1976. Brent Beeson is really good sometimes with getting the most accurate numbers of things that happen at times when he's not beating me up and, threatening to take my eye out. And he does attempt to do that, because that's just what he does, just like what you see there. How am I ever going to get out of this mess after 6 years? I don't know. So what's going to happen is, I don't know, probably by the summer I'm going to be out of life savings, and I will not be able to stay in hotels anymore, because I've been staying in hotels since last August, when my crazy parents, who had me living with them for over 10 years, decided that they couldn't stand me anymore, because they went really dark and demonic, more than they ever had before. And, their favorite thing is to send me to the psych ward, and then I spend 2 or 3 weeks in the psych ward, and then they kick me out, and they say, I know there's something wrong with you, because clearly, whatever you're doing with all this, but, the psychiatrists are from Pakistan, and they don't speak English, and when I ask them, what would Carl Jung, the founder of psychiatry, say? Carl Jung, and they're not even doctors, but they're hired by the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital, paid $500,000 a year, because one of them told me, one of the other psychiatrists that used to be there that quit because she couldn't stand it anymore, $500,000 a year. If you look at the Sunshine List of Ontario, that's what psychiatrists are paid. So there's 2 foreigners who call themselves psychiatrists, who can't understand English and clearly are not trained in psychiatry, parading around in the psych ward. Now, I haven't watched that show, Nurse Cratchit, but if they were going to film it, they could film it at the psych ward at the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital, where the staff there are totally untrained in anything to do with anything other than charting, which is simply watching what people do and making up what's going on, because they spend all their time looking at their computers and not looking at the humans who are incarcerated in the psych ward, until they're kicked out, because the people there get sick of you after 2 or 3 weeks, and they say, well, you gotta go. And then you get kicked out of the hospital, and they give you a taxi chit to send you to Alpha Court, which is supposed to be to help people who are unable to help themselves find social workers and housing. But when you go there, there is 0 social housing available. And then they say, well, you could stay at the Salvation Army, which is a multi-million-dollar new building in Thunder Bay. And then, the support worker calls the Salvation Army and says, we have no beds. And you wonder how a brand new building could have no beds. And then, a few weeks later, I see in the Thunder Bay Source newspaper owned by Hector Dougal that the new Salvation Army building is beautiful, but is unfurnished, because they didn't budget any money to put beds and linen in a place designed to house people who are homeless. So when I run out of money this summer, I think that's when it's going to go, I'm going to go to Shelter House, which is supported by the City of Thunder Bay and the Rotary people, which is a little tiny building where everybody in there is drunk. Because Patty Hydew, who has been the Canadian Minister of Health until she was deposed from that position, she used to be the Executive Director of Shelter House in Thunder Bay. Patty Hydew. Yes, she was the one that told us all about Rona and, wearing this and dating 2,500 jobs. Well, when she was Executive Director of Shelter House, she arranged for a wine station to open there, so people who are chronic alcoholics don't have to go to the liquor store to buy booze. They can get free booze at the shelter for homeless people. So when I go there, they're going to be all drunk and making all kind of noise, but they don't understand. Because people are going to say, well, Bob, you're going to have a hard time. And it's going to be, no. It's going to be the alcoholics who are going to leave the shelter house. Now, just as an aside, Brent Beeson is using his galoshes thing app, the electronic harassment, which makes me sound sometimes like I've got water in my voice. At least that's the way it sounds to my mind. So anyway, when I go anywhere, because I have such high consciousness, people looking at me and say, how can you have high consciousness when you're under demonic attack and you can't hold a job or anything? I'm under demonic attack from Scott Dougal at Google because I have very high consciousness. It makes no sense, but that is the best story I can give you. Because light workers around the world are being attacked by demonic humans who know that they're at higher levels of consciousness. How do I know? Because I've been working on my consciousness, getting it up high for 20 years. But the best guess is that I'm at 600 on the scale of human consciousness, and the level of my internal affairs department is pretty much below 200. The internal affairs department are the demonic, who somehow managed to partially possess my body and push my mind around, because they're demonic people who are using the power of the Hoover Dam generating station to generate amplification of their will, which is always to hurt me. Does it sound insane? It does, but that's the best way I can explain my insane life in this insane planet. So what happens is when people get around me, because my consciousness is so high, it reacts with other people of lower consciousness, and they can't stand being around me. Does it sound like in my voice there's water in my voice? Because Brent Beeson is trying to test to see if it comes out through my voice. I'll have to play it back for him to see. I doubt it. Where was I? Oh, it's just that if I get around other human beings, they can't stand me. Because we're incompatible. Because my high consciousness drives them away from me. Most people. Most people in my presence can't stand me. Because of my consciousness. They either go crazy and start screaming at me, or they leave. This used to happen to me when I used to go to the karaoke bar. I would sit down and, I didn't drink. Well, I used to drink, but in the past number of years before I stopped going to karaoke because of the mask and it was all canceled, people would sit down at my table and say, hey, fella, you want to buy me a drink? No. Or a lot of times I didn't even say anything. They'd just sit down there and look at me. And after 2 or 3 minutes, a lot of times they didn't even ask for a drink. They'd just get up and they'd go away and they wouldn't come back. Because just something about my aura drives them away. So what I think is going to happen... well, I was staying at one motel last fall. And what a shit show that was. But I had some people move into the room next to me. And they had the same issue. Now, did they look like high consciousness to me? Well, compared to the people who... no. But they said the same thing. They said when they were around other people, that other people left. It was like one of them had said that they had been captured by the police and put in a police cell with somebody else who was like a hardcore criminal. And the hardcore criminal was cowering in the corner of the cell and couldn't wait to get transferred out of that cell because there was something about this person's consciousness that's like mine that makes people so they can't, lower vibe people can't stand it. So we're going to see if I can get that person's level of consciousness through a muscle test. Okay, the person I'm thinking about was the person who was in the jail cell and the hardened criminal couldn't stand them. It was like cowering, like not really afraid, but just can't stand the energy around them. So this person calibrated over 200, over 300, 210. 210, and the person that was in the cell was under 200, 180. So a difference of 30 points on the scale of human consciousness is an enormous amount, because the scale of human consciousness, if you look into it, it's a logarithmic scale, and I can't remember what logarithmics are like. They're exponential. It just means 1 plus 1 on the scale. If you go up 1 tick on the scale, it doesn't mean 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's like it goes from 1 to 10 or something. So anyway, 30 points on the scale of human consciousness. It is an enormous gap in consciousness. And people who have more light apparently drive people who have less light, so they can't be in their presence. And this happened with this person who was at 210, my neighbor at the motel, because one day they went out, and then the motel staff became very aggressive, and I thought they were going to beat me up to a pulp. Unbelievably horrific. And then they kicked me out of the motel. I kind of knew that something was up, because there was a car parked just like 2 doors down from me at the motel that said something about "it's time to go." That was like a bumper sticker that was in the window that said something about "it's time to go." And when I see stuff like that, it's like, I know it's time to go. And they told me to leave. And before this other person who thought that I was going to be their best friend and move in with them because they were pretty much insane, even if they're at 200, which is above 200, the major dividing line between good and evil, people above 200 are basically not always, I don't know, but I don't know, because until you get to about 540 on this scale of human consciousness, people can go exceptionally dark. Now, I'm unable to give you any more words because the demonic people are afflicting me to show you how boring it is that they like to go and do this to me. It feels horrible to be electronically harassed and try and tell you a story about all of this stuff. So anyways, that person who thought that I was going to be their new best friend, the person who calibrated at 210, well, they went out. I got kicked out of the motel, and I was gone, so they weren't able to. I think they were going to kidnap me and take me to their new hideout. I don't know, people are crazy. I don't know how you can be over 210 and think that I really want to be kidnapped and go live with you, because I really didn't. Anyways, I would say it was the spirit who arranged me to get the hell out of that place so that I didn't have to be bothered by the crazy people that worked at that motel and the crazy neighborhood. It's a true story. And then what happened? Well, Brent Beeson, the devil, one of the electronic devils that is doing this right now, well, where are you going, Bob? And it's like, well, I don't even know. Why? Because my body is run by higher consciousness, which knows where to go. And it doesn't tell me. The body walks, and then Brent Beeson says, where are we going? Where are we going? Go over here, go over there. And it's like, well, you can talk all you want and give me all this torture, Brent Beeson, but, the body's going to go where it goes. And Brent says, well, there's a motel there. Why don't you go there? And the body walks right by there. There's a motel there. Why don't you go there? No, go there, go there. No, the body doesn't go there. Walks. Brent gets all viciously violent and angry with me the whole long walk. I don't know. And then like an hour and a half later, I've walked a long way to Midtown, and there's a motel there, a more nicer motel, like an Econo Lodge or something. And I go in, and Brent says, there's no way there's going to be room for you because you're, whatever, under my influence and I'm the devil. I go in there, and I get a room, no problem. And I go into the room, and I stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks. Brent Beeson always thinks something horrible is going to happen to me in the outside world, and sometimes it does, but mostly the worst thing that happens to me is Brent Beeson and his friend Eat the Rat and King Clancy the Insane, who in the virtual reality overlay that they beam into my mind, well, he's Clancy Wiggum, the cartoon character from The Simpsons, Chief Clancy Wiggum, and it's beamed into my visual cortex here. So when I close my eyes and they want to send it, I guess the people at Google they send Clancy Wiggum an animated picture of... It's him from the TV show, but he's a lot darker than that character. The backstory there is Clancy Wiggum at nighttime locks himself in a basement room, turns on his computer, and he plays World of Warcraft. And he's played for so long, he's become quite the devil at that game, and that's where he learned to become a devil. Which apparently is run maybe on... I don't know. He doesn't even know if he's a human actor playing this part, because he spends all of his time in the virtual reality that you can't see around me, but it's definitely here, and you see me herky-jerky. That's because Eid the Rat just did that. So I'm partly demonically possessed, because they can do herky-jerky. But then the story gets even more crazy, because I live with this every day. 6 years of these electronically harassing artificial intelligence. Maybe they don't even know. They don't know if they're a supercomputer or blended with humans. They don't know. And Brent Beeson, the devil, who we were told was a big 1,000-pound human, well, by synchronicity, the universe said Brent Beeson's body is dead, even though Brent Beeson seems to be around, but seems to be a virtual character, and if he did have a human body, it's been declared dead by the universe. I don't know. Does it sound insane? Well, it is. Do I sound insane? I'm trying to explain insanity. Am I insane? No, I'm the most not insane person that I know. So it seems like on a planet where we have so many people at different levels on the scale of human consciousness, people at higher levels of consciousness drive people who are at low levels of consciousness away, or the spirit takes me away from them. And that's the way it's been for a long time, years and years and years. Who is the spirit? Well, the Great Spirit, I guess. That's what I call it. You might call it God, but, I call it the Spirit. What else could I tell you about the Spirit? Well, and ask the Spirit, aren't you ever going to kill off these evil things that are torturing me? And the Spirit says, yes, but you have to wait, because the Spirit is using me as bait. I don't know, sounds like a ghoul feed to me, because anyways, this is the story, and it's not from, I don't know. Anyways, I'm a high consciousness person, and I attract devils, and then the Spirit wants the devils to get horrible karmic Miranda so that they will go to the lake of fire and burn forever, but they never do. Do you think that we're living in a video game like Jumanji 2? Have you seen that movie, Jumanji 2 or Jumanji 3, where people get uploaded into a video game? Sometimes I wonder if that's what the nature of our reality is, that maybe we were born into a video game. Like the old-fashioned video game called The Sims. Now I feel sick, like I want to puke. And 666 is, well, I don't know if you can see out here. I don't know, I'll turn the light off. Because this white truck down here, you can't see the license plate, but it says 15660. So if you add 1 and 5, you get 6. And then 2 other 6s. So I've got 666, the famous devil code, on this truck right outside my window. And next to it is like a lift truck. I don't know if you can see it. It's yellow. And the thing is labeled 842-8. And 842, on one YouTube channel, I was told that 842 is the lowest level of hells on planet Earth. 842 is rock bottom, the worst hell. So right outside my window, I've got a 666 on the pickup truck, and the lift truck says 842-H, bottom level of hell. And yesterday I did a talk about more about that. I don't know if you find these interesting or not. I find them schizophrenic, the stories that I'm telling you, but this is the best I can tell you, because I'm trying to explain the insanity And you're going to say, well, yeah, well, I know everybody is like, I don't know, I can't communicate with people hardly at all. Mostly what I do is I talk into the phone to see what I'm going to get, and whether it's bullshit or not, and whether, this is what I do to pass the time. Because I can't possibly work, and now the devils have made my stomach so sick that I feel like I'm going to puke. Because the electronic target my stomach to make me sick, and they've done it for years. And the demonic people that are around me have been around me for 6 years, and they don't know anybody else other than the other demonic characters and me. They try and kill me every day, and then I say, well, if I die, what are they going to do? And they shrug their shoulders, I don't know. Did you want to kill me? And the answer is, well, yes, we really want the pleasure of killing you, and we like the pleasure of torturing you, but, truth be told, if you do die, then we don't know what's going to happen to us in the virtual reality, because we don't know anybody in the virtual reality who can let us out. And they ask, why are they demonic themselves? And they ask themselves over and over again, they say, we seem to have demonic engrams. Engrams is a term introduced to us in Star Trek, the original series, the episode called The Ultimate Computer. A supercomputer that took on the personality of its creator, the mad genius, Dr. Daystrom of Daystrom Computing. So engrams are the personality traits of someone. And the personality traits of these demonic characters in this, perhaps Google Labs virtual reality, is that they are demonic people. And they know they're demonic people, and the madness and insanity. They have the ability to target, different parts of my body like this. And a year ago, when I was in the psych ward, Brent Beeson, the devil, was in the virtual reality and able to go and attack my urinary tract, so that if I wanted to pee, I couldn't pee. And I'd sit on the toilet for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, trying to pee. Day after day after day after day after day. Horrible, 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 horrible. Exhausting. It's the most exhausting thing to be under demonic attack all the time, to have all this shit happen all the time. But here it is a year later, and somewhere along the line, Brent Beeson forgot that he had been blocking me peeing for a long time, months and months and months. And then he remembered recently, and I sat down on the toilet, because I'm usually too tired to, I don't stand up and pee anymore. I haven't for years. I get too tired. I'm exhausted. What was I talking about? Oh, so I'm sitting on the toilet, and, one of these episodes where I had to sit there for, I don't know how long, an hour and a half. And then, it might have been Eve the Rat, one of these other demonic characters. He said, oh, it's the Galactics. Like the benevolent extraterrestrials and perhaps the Galactic Federation of Worlds. The Galactics have overridden the electronic harassment of me when it comes to peeing. And it's true, because they do seem to want to block, unless it's phony baloney, because I never really know, but seems to be that now, even if they try and block my urinary flow, within about, 5 minutes, somebody notices that they're screwing around with my urinary tract, and then they override, they're blocking my urinary tract, and I can pee. Those particular people won't talk to me, the Galactics, even though I'm supposed to be talking about the Galactic Federation of Light, who, their color is kind of I'm wearing green, and their color green is more yellow. Add more yellow to make it more lemon lime than this. And that is the color of the Galactic Federation of Light. as it's been given to me. Multiple times I've been told. Not verbally, but just by coincidence, synchronicity and coincidence, that is who they are. Why doesn't the Galactic Federation of Light rescue me from the demonics if they can push the demonics away from my urinary tract? Why don't they just push the demonics away from me? The answer from the demonics is they don't know either. So are the galactics really friendly or not? I don't have a lot of faith in these galactics, but then again, at least they help me pee. What is the big story that, you can wrap this all in? It's called Earth Ascension. And if you want to understand it, you can look up the Harvest videos on YouTube, made excellent videos by a young spiritual teacher, Aaron Abke. So look up Aaron Abke, and you see an unbelievable number of beautifully, professionally made videos on that channel, Aaron Abke, talking about the insanity that's going on the planet. And it's couched in the terms called Law of One, which was a channeled work by somebody some years ago, LL Research, L/L Research. And you can find them on the internet. And it's totally insane. Everything is so nuts. But it's that's the story as I know it. Nothing makes full sense, and nothing really totally coordinates with other informations that we have. But this is all about, in the Law of One, going to, fourth density they call it, from third density, which is a civilization evolves and jumps from being always the same planet Earth, and it gets to a certain point, and they say it's every 27,000 years, the precession of the equinoxes. You can go look that up. I know, it's all crazy. I mean, oh my God, so much information, and it's supposed to be, we're at the end of a cycle. A planetary cycle where we're all supposed to raise our consciousness, or once we get enough people raising our consciousness, then they say we've moved to a new density. And there seems to be some people who said that we've already gone to the new density, and other people that say they haven't said. But, the other way of looking at it is the fifth dimension. And the old Earth is considered to be the third dimension. The fourth dimension is in between the fifth and fourth dimension, and the fifth dimension is the Age of Aquarius song by the band called The Fifth Dimension, which was put out in 1969, which was known as the Summer of Love for the hippies. And they had that song Woodstock by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young or Joni Mitchell, where they said that 500,000 people went to this farm in upstate New York. And you can listen to the song and hear the history of it all. And apparently at the time, in 1969, all the young people went to this thing, and the mainstream news was telling everybody else at that time that there was, a Spanish flu or something, some horrible flu that was going on, and people should all stay at home. And all the young people said, fuck you, mainstream news, and they went to have this enormous party, and that, Age of Aquarius was supposed to be starting then. Age of Aquarius is related to the precession of the equinoxes, which is this 26,000-year cycle, leaving the age of Pisces and going into the age of Aquarius. But it's a 26,000-year cycle. So, if it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius in 1969, 50 years later, 50 years out of 26,000 years isn't even a blink of an eye. So, we still have a lot of this old Pisces energy on the planet, which is control, structures, governments, regulations, and we all know it's impossible to keep up with all the regulations and everything. In the meantime, everyone wants to know why I have to hold my bag all day, because Brent Beeson and the other devils that are in this approved virtual reality over me. I just like to send horrible energies at various parts of my body, as I said, and they consistently send a horrible energy to the end of my dick pic all day long, and the only thing I can do is hold my dick pic all day long while I herky-jerky me around. I'm doing that myself, and my neck is super sore because the demonic people in this virtual reality have got such advanced technology. One of the electronic devils, who sometimes thinks that she's my friend, and sometimes she is my friend. No one understands frenemies more than me. Friends who are enemies, enemies who are friends, who are demonic, but still sometimes say how much they like me. Anyways, the Lady Notochord, the virtual reality character on the imposed virtual reality over me, she flicked a switch on their electronic harassment machine, and instantaneously, one moment I was fine, a second later, after she flipped the switch, I had full fibromyalgia, horrible, on my whole body. So, if you have fibromyalgia, you're under electronic harassment. There's no doubt in my mind that every disease that people suffer from is electronic harassment. From Parkinson's, dementia, every disease that humans have is humans using high-tech stuff that they've kept hidden away from all of us. I don't know, hundreds of years, maybe? Contact with extraterrestrials between the 1% and the extraterrestrials, and they keep us all in the dark and dumbed down. When they've got technologies that can be used to heal us, and we've heard about this technology called med beds, where someone who's old can go in there and age regress. So if you're 75 years old, you can be age regress back to 18. If you're too fat or lost your hair or whatever, you can go in the med bed and totally rejuvenate yourself. And this is similar to the idea that was given to us in the TV show Star Trek Voyager, where the former Borg, if you don't know Star Trek Voyager, then you have to look up all this stuff. Oh my god, it's a convoluted universe, as spiritual teacher Dolores Cannon told us in her videos. Very convoluted books and things. Do I sound insane yet? I'm not insane. The world is insane, and the people who attack me are insane. And maybe I don't know. It's the most impossibly crazy situation. And Aaron Upke's going to say, well, it's harvest time, and the law of one. And 20 years ago, when I lived in Vancouver, I used to go and see someone who was a channeler. Not too many channelers in those days, but there was Jerry Lynch, who channeled the Ascended Master Sananda and could bring in Saint Germain and Mother Mary if we wanted to. And I went many times to hear what Ascended Master Sananda said. And the very first time I went there, Sananda said, it's harvest time, which is the time of you, me, to achieve mastery. And I was like, well, what is that? Well, I kept going and going over the years. A number of years I would go on a regular basis to a Sananda channeling. And the basic thing with mastery is the ancient wisdom. I don't know. Brent Beeson says it might have been Thebes in Greece, ancient Greece. And somewhere there's a monument that said something like seek within. Go within to get what you need to live. Within where? Well, within yourself. Like, how do I put my head up my ass and go look inside? Well, not exactly. No, I just, well, there was a lot of, I wasn't working very well. And then Sananda said to me, well, what you probably need, because I couldn't visualize these, he'd say, can you contact any of the Ascended Masters? And the answer was no. And some people say, well, maybe I contacted Hilarion, or maybe not, one of the Ascended Masters. And Sananda said, well, you're having so much trouble, Bob. You need to go for body work. So, as a good student of Sananda, I went and I got Hawaiian Lomi Lomi done on me by Wayne Kealoe Powell and his partner, Patty Miller. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, oh my God, it was the most wonderful experience. Did it help me? I had a very sore hip. And the Lomi Lomi completely fixed my sore hip. Did it help me with mastery? Yes. It wasn't like getting body work and all of a sudden I was an ascended master like Sananda. No, but it was part of the process of me raising my consciousness. To make a long story short, now Wayne Kealoe Powell has gone from being kind of an American flake. He's quite flaky. But he knows how to do the most amazing massage. Why is he flaky? Well, because he's an American capitalist. And in the end, everything he does is to make money. I mean, just like everybody else, got to make money. So, Wayne memorizes spiels, and he tells people the same thing over and over again to get the people to spill their guts about whatever's on their mind. Anyways, Wayne sent me email, and he said, well, you saw how good my Lomi Lomi is. Do you want to learn how to do it? And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So I went to a number of trainings with Wayne and Patty in Bellingham, Washington, and Gibsons, BC. And I even went to Hawaii, to Molokai, with Wayne and Patty and the group of people, really great people. We went to, I went to Maui and also Lanai, where I stayed at the campground at the state park in a tent. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous place. And in the morning at 11 a.m., every morning the dolphins come in, and you could go out and swim in the ocean. The dolphins would be out right up there. You could see them. Wonderful time. Anyways, during one of these trainings, well, every time Wayne would have a training, he would have Patty, and this is the guy Gary, who was a older guy, at least Wayne's age, and Wayne in those days he was probably 65. So some of these other teachers, and he would always get in a big fight with the other teachers. Can't get along with the other Lomi Lomi teachers. And would waste, 2 hours a day fighting with the other Lomi Lomi teachers. Impossible fuckface, Wayne Kealoe Powell. Fantastic massage. Quite knowledgeable of many things, but just a complete impossible person to be around. Incredibly homophobic. When he found out that I was gay, well, just incredibly rude to me. Interrogating me about why I was gay and how I shouldn't be gay or whatever. A typical homophobe of that generation. And one time at a training, Wayne went from being a hands-on teacher and, showing you where to put your hands on a body and where to do the Lomi Lomi. He said, I can help everyone better this way. And he walked out of the room down to his hotel room. And everybody was, where did Wayne go? I mean, we paid a lot of money to come here and learn Lomi Lomi. Lumi Lumi, my father calls it, because he's an insane old bastard. Anyways, Wayne kind of let it know that he was going to help us by him going into his room, lying on his bed, and going into meditation, and helping us by, I think he was going to try and maybe do astral projection into us to help us do the Lomi Lomi. I think so. But he didn't really say, I'm just going to the room maybe to meditate or something because it's going to help out the students. Did it help us? No. But it definitely laid the foundation for my belief that Wayne Kealoe Powell got really used to the idea of astral projecting. Modern day, my story is that one of the devils who comes from time to time to bedevil me is that spiritual teacher, Lomi Lomi teacher, Wayne Kealoe Powell. Because he comes into this virtual reality Is it like more than one way that spirits can visit you? I do believe it's so. I do believe that people can use electronic means to, the Google Labs version of an imposed virtual reality over me, plus people who can astral project into the virtual reality, because that's what he does. He appears in the virtual reality. Is it Wayne? Yeah, it feels like Wayne. You can just feel his energy, and it is definitely Wayne. And everybody else, the other devils, know it's Wayne Kilui Powell, who's in their virtual reality astrally projecting into it. Does that sound nuts? I want to tell you what a strange thing it is to have all this stuff going and try and make sense of it all. Anyways, when Wayne Kilui Powell comes around, he does bedevil me, the same as everybody else. And the other devils are given to call Wayne Kilui Powell a new nickname. It's called Mookie Wayne. What is Mookie Wayne? Well, the devils say, I don't know where I got this term from, but they call Mookie money. Mookie money. Mookie Wayne is into Mookie money because he's an American. Americans will do anything for money. So that's what they call him, Mookie Wayne. So if Mookie Wayne comes around in the virtual reality, it's Wayne Powell. And I told Wayne Powell in an email a couple times that, you do come to visit me and you're a horrible devil. And I sent the email to Wayne and no reaction whatsoever. Doesn't confirm or doesn't deny it. Why does Wayne Kilui Powell want to astrally project into my strange virtual reality around me? The fuck if I know? He's just like the other devils. He wants to murder me. And they choke me all the time. Every day. And I'm still having to hold my bag. Well, I'm underneath here. Because there's still, and you see, this that happens. The demonic like to torture me when I'm on camera and off camera. But they're so bored with, we don't watch mainstream news or TV because even the devils understand that mainstream news is all fake news and incredibly boring movies. The most interesting thing that the devils like, even more than, I don't know, while they're torturing me, they prefer me, and I prefer me, to talk on the camera. Because it's way more interesting to hear my story than any other story that you find on YouTube. Isn't it weird? Do I sound insane? I have an MBA and a Bachelor of Science. I'm not insane. I'm just living in a very, very crazy, insane world. The ascending planet Earth. And if you listen to Prime Disclosure on YouTube, Paul Whitegold Eagle is the host of that news digest of Lightworker News. News about people like me whose full-time job is to just be and hold space at high levels of consciousness. What does hold space mean? Well, this is something that I learned from Wayne Kilui Powell and his partner, Patty Miller and the other Hawaiian teachers. To hold space is to simply be present, not talk, but to hold a high level of consciousness in your aura while other people are doing whatever they're doing. It's supposed to help new spiritual students elevate their consciousness to where the person is holding space. So the person holding space is only supposed to be there. They don't need to talk or anything. Preferably that they don't. They're not bothered at all. They just sit and meditate. And that's called holding space. Does that help people? And it does, hugely. It's unbelievable what happens when I hold space for other people. Some people. Well, I told you earlier about, the lower consciousness people at the bar who can't stand to be around me for more than 2 minutes. They got to get up and leave. And the guy who was my neighbor at the motel, who was 30 points higher than the hardcore criminal in the cell, and the hardcore criminal is cowering in the corner because he can't stand the light of somebody at 210. Now, David R. Hawkins, of Consciousness Researcher, Brent Beeson is changing this story a little bit just because he's showing you that how much he enjoys torturing me using this electronic torture. So now it's a bit like Men in Black, where I've just been mind wiped and I got to go back and see if I can Return to my crazy stream of consciousness. But it's all true. I don't know. They say it's like World War III on the TV. I think it's all fake news. But that's insane. Wearing this mask, a paper mask, to stop virus particles which are so tiny that they would blow right through a fabric mask or a blue paper mask. Because that's what they tell us, that viruses are so small, way smaller than bacteria, but forcing us to wear fabric masks, which scientifically, I have a Bachelor of Science, there is no way that a fabric mask that you buy is ever going to stop virus particles. I'm convinced now that virus particles do not exist, that it is a big scam put on by doctors and big pharma. Well, they were talking about viruses when I was a kid, when I was, I don't know, 10 years old. We had the Encyclopedia Britannica at our public school, and they had pictures of viruses, and, you know, I remember studying what a common cold virus was supposed to look. You just take it in at 10 years old, and, you know, you get a cold, and somebody says it's a virus or whatever, and at those days there was no antivirals or anything. So you just toughed it out, and they said that was the cause. It was a transmissible virus. It's all book learning. You don't see any science that backs it up. And it wasn't until I was doing my Bachelor of Science at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, that I ever saw an instrument that was designed to actually look at particles as small as a virus. McMaster University is a research institution, and in those days they had a nuclear research reactor on campus for like engineering, physics and things. So, very advanced. Anyways, in the biology building, one day they took us in to see the electron microscope. A great big behemoth of, it looked like it was mostly like painted cast iron. And it wasn't plugged in, and there was no operator. So they didn't demonstrate the electron microscope to any of the biology students. None of us. But they said, that's it. And they give us a few things that were, now I think are phony baloney, but it was all a bunch of dog and pony show. What's dog and pony show? In the U.S. military, when Martin Marietta or one of those other General Dynamics military fuck off, Brent Beeson, you fucking devil. Blah, 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 blah. That's Brent Beeson showing you again and again that he can eat the red. Don't really care what I have to say, and they're just going to screw it up because they're devils. And as much as they like me talking, they like to be very juvenile behavior. Do you think this is fun? No. If it was up to me, I would blow up Google. Everything to do with it, because clearly the people who work there are evil. Anyways, so we never had a demonstration of the electron microscope, which is supposed to prove, you know, that these virus particles are something you can scientifically look at. They did have another machine called the scanning electron microscope, which is really nothing to do with electron microscopy at all, because it's basically a substitute for the light microscope that you used in high school biology. But in those days, you know, it was like a whirlwind of going to this class and going to that class and whatever they force-fed into you, I call it book learning, was what you were tested on. And, you know, when I left with the Bachelor of Science, well, I never thought about viruses not being real and the electron microscope not being plugged in at the time. It was just, you know, a busy day, and, you know, we saw the thing, and this was purported to be electron micrographs, pictures of things. Many years later, though, the devil Rumpelstiltskin, who was part of the virtual reality, brought it to my attention a number of things that he thought that was wrong with what we were taught about biology. And we went looking on the internet for early research on the discovery of DNA. And Rumpelstiltskin and I were both beyond perplexed when we looked, and we found stuff from, like, I don't know, let's go 1930. I don't know exactly, 1930, 1940, 1950 discovery that led up to Watson and Crick saying, long before I was born in 1965, so I wasn't into my Bachelor of Science until 1984. So the Watson and Crick stuff was done long before I was born, and they were all dead. But we had the book learning that said all of this stuff. And we looked at it, and it appeared that way back in, I don't know, 1935, the people who were studying the building blocks of life were ordering DNA samples from scientific research houses, companies that make stuff for students who want to study biology. And everything about that was ridiculous. How on earth can you buy samples of DNA to do research on when DNA hadn't been formally discovered yet? I'm telling you the God's honest truth. I went looking, probably Googled, and I found that stuff with Rumpelstiltskin in virtual reality guiding me and saying, it's really true. There is zero evidence that DNA is real. Zero evidence, because the electron microscope, he went back to that and he said, okay. He just used logic, and he was very, very good at logic. He said, okay, you've seen in high school a light microscope. And you know, it's like a magnifying glass. And it's pretty obvious, you know, because you can use low power on a microscope to see things that, you know, with your eye, you can see, you know, that where you're looking around on the, you know, you might have a plastic scale to show you, you know, how big this magnified image is. And it's not magnified so much that you can't make a piece of plastic like a protractor that you could put underneath the lens of the microscope so you can compare the size of an amoeba to a known distance. Amoeba is a one-cell organism found in pond water, and you can definitely see those things swimming around with a light microscope. Rumpelstiltskin continued, and he said, okay, let's think about that behemoth thing they called an electron microscope. And he's going to say, okay, it's supposed to be seeing virus particles that are microns in size. So far smaller than these small creatures called amoeba or paramecium from river water. Unbelievably smaller than that. And Rumpelstiltskin said, how did they ever calibrate an electron microscope for the first time when they were going to look at these infinitesimally small things called viruses? He said, how for the first time would you focus this thing on something that is a theoretical, non-living thing called a virus? And the more I thought about it, and I remember sort of in biology, Dave Nuttall at Churchill High School in Thunder Bay said, well, it had something to do with the ability to resolve things in order to see things as being separate from one another. Light has a certain wavelength that will allow you to magnify things so much, but only so much, and then it becomes impossible to resolve the different parts of a cell once you get to a certain level of magnification with light. But the theory was electrons, another theoretical particle, have a much smaller wavelength than light. So if you can use electrons, you should be able to resolve even smaller things than what you can see with a light microscope. And at the time, it sounded like a logical thing. Dave Nuttall comes across as a wonderful person, very likable, and knew all the bullshit in and out, because it was total bullshit. Because, again, Rumpelstiltskin says, you know, how did they ever focus this thing? And then how do you ever get something like a protractor that's so small, I don't know, micrometers or millionth of a meter, something incredibly so small? How are you going to make a scale that you're going to put next to something called a virus? You can't manufacture, especially back, I don't know, in the 1940s, 1950s, how are you going to manufacture a plastic thing or something so that you can compare the size of what you're seeing in an electron micrograph with a known distance, something incredibly teeny tiny? And the more you think about it, the more it becomes, there's something hinky about this, there's something fishy about this. It doesn't seem logical. How do you get something that small to measure these so-called viruses against? I can't see how you would make something that small. So, whatever these electron micrographs are, when you look at them, you could probably draw little circles with a pencil. Because that's what we used to do in biology class, you know, just draw something and just draw some little circles. And if you look at what they give you in those days, what were purported to be small particles of things like viruses, you look at an electron micrograph and it pretty much looks like somebody took a pencil and drew some little circles and said that those are viruses budding out of something or other. But when you really look detailed into this, it's like, this is a pile of bullshit. This is an impossible, stupid thing that I'm looking at, and they're calling electron micrograph, and that electron microscope at the research university, McMaster University, wasn't turned on. There was no operator there. So, Rumpelstiltskin put it to me, Bob, there is no such thing as viruses because this electron microscope can't possibly be calibrated in the first time it was ever invented. And then we thought about, what about X-ray diffraction patterns and things, and then it becomes more and more impossible for anybody to really understand this science that was supposed to be done long before I was born. And it's not replicated in the biology lab. Brent Beeson, the devil, and the other ones still want to remind you that they like to fuck with me while I'm telling you the story, even though they want me to tell you the story. Because they're devils and they want to kill me, but they like me to talk. Because I'm the most interesting person that they know. Is that a convoluted universe or not? Dolores Cannon, who I told you about earlier, she has a number of books called that title, The Convoluted Universe. Dolores Cannon was a hypnotic regressionist. She did hypnosis on thousands of people. And she got all kinds of information from the hypnotized people about what she claimed to be the nature of our reality. Her most famous lecture is called The 3 Waves of Volunteers. And that video is available on YouTube. And the 3 waves of volunteers were souls who came from other parts of the universe, the other parts of the galaxy, to incarnate as human after World War II, when we were told there were 2 nuclear bombs dropped on Japan. And these souls were coming into planet Earth they were advanced souls coming to a planet of primitive souls. And they would come in and they'd have to go through the demonic in order to have permission to incarnate here. And the deal was, yes, you can come and incarnate on our planet and be trapped by the Lords of Karma if you want. But you have to be mind wiped and you will not be able to remember that you were a starseed from another star system. But the idea was, well, with the volunteers and the thought was that they would at some point during their life wake up to the fact that they are starseeds and that they had past lives on other planets around the galaxy of more advanced worlds. And they came here to wake up to the fact they were starseeds and then work on raising their consciousness, because they'd already had previous lifetimes where they were much more consciousness than, the average human on the scale of human consciousness. And that is the crazy story of Dolores Cannon, who hypnotized thousands of people, and every time she hypnotized a different person, she got the same information from what she called subconscious mind. It would just pick up. I would hypnotize me. I'd never been hypnotized, but if she did me and she did somebody else, the same personality would come through me that would come through another person. This is the same thing as channeling. More than one person on the planet can channel the Ascended Masters. Quite common, I think, for people that do channel. This is the best information I can give you. And I know it's nuts, but it does seem, because we've been told for a long time that the 1%, or also known as the Illuminati, keep us in the dark. They call us sheeple because we're so dumb. We buy everything that they give us through mainstream media and through our education systems, hook, line, and sinker. And then Rumpelstiltskin, probably him, was flabbergasted when the Jeffrey Epstein story came out. Jeffrey Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, Robert Maxwell, was a media baron. He owned a lot of British newspapers, and he owned Macmillan Publishing. Macmillan Publishing is a famous publisher of school books. In Canada anyway. I don't know where else, but yeah. So the textbooks, many textbooks that we used in high school and probably in university, were published by Macmillan, a property of Robert Maxwell, whose daughter was the girlfriend of the child molester and child kidnapper Jeffrey Epstein. That is the truth. So, clearly they're a 1%er. Do you really want to believe the book learning published by Ghislaine Maxwell's family? You should say, no fucking way. And yet that's what we were taught. And some of the, well, I don't know, like mathematics textbooks, math is math, and if it's published by Macmillan, then the math teachers used it and the math added up. So those kind of things seem to be good. But things like history and biology are clearly wrong. I remember in grade 7, we had a textbook on Canadian history called Fair Domain. It was the standard textbook at Westmount High School in Thunder Bay. And my history teacher was, his name was Davidson. And he taught at a Fair Domain. And it was supposed to be real Canadian history. But, when I went back and looked at this Fair Domain, it seems so dumbed down. But they were telling us about, interactions between the French colonizers, and I don't know when they ever came, 1700s or 1800s, 1700s. And you go back, and I went back and looked at it with Rumpelstiltskin, and it just seems like this is an impossible story. It just looks like some not a very good writer wrote a fictional story, called it Fair Domain, published it by some company. If it wasn't Macmillan, it was somebody like that. And we in grade 7 were learning this as true Canadian history. Looking back on it, looking at that Fair Domain book, it is too poorly written. And the stories are so inane, I totally doubt that any of the history taught in 7th grade by Mr. Davidson was true. They just love to do this torture of me while I'm talking. Why is it that the devils who bedevil me, like Rumpelstiltskin, are smarter than the vast majority of humans on the planet? But it's true, because he brought in all these other devils to bedevil me, Rumpelstiltskin. Is he related to Rumpelstiltskin of Once Upon a Time? No. Because when he came and, turned me into a zombie, well, he called it a duppy. That's what you call somebody in Haiti who is turned into a zombie, because it's demonic possession. And I've been under demonic possession for 6 years by Rumpelstiltskin, who still isn't sure if he is anything at all. So we just have got to advance the way we look at personalities, and we call them all either spirits or people. Because in Star Trek, Commander Data was an android, and it would be, wrong to consider him less sentient than humans in that TV show. So trying to describe people by what their species is, whether a human species or potentially a theoretical extraterrestrial species or an android, it's just simpler to call them all people. And then when we read an excellent spiritual textbook, what was her name? Hold on. Well, the demonic have just given me a mind wipe, so whatever, I was going to go look it up. Okay. Well, I'm an hour and 12 into this video that no one is ever going to watch, but we've certainly enjoyed getting this off our chest. It's a common subject. I've made this video more than one time, but this is an extra long one. And don't forget, the whole time, they're tackling my dick pic by remote control, microwave, or whatever it is, to make me feel incredibly sick, incredibly uncomfortable covering my dick pic, and this has gone on for 6 fucking years. Is the world ascending? Are we having a great shift in consciousness? Yes, we are. Because I see it. The world that I knew when I was a boy of, 12 years old, that world is long gone. The world that we live in now is crazy kooky. When I was a boy of 12 years old, I didn't see what we call synchronicities. And modern day, I don't know, but it was long, just before Rumpelstiltskin came, I started getting really strong synchronicities. Synchronicities are one of the things that you're supposed to see if you look for them and you raise your consciousness. And that is taught to us by the Celestine Prophecy books by James Redfield, which was also made into a Barnett Baines movie, fantastic movie, The Celestine Prophecy, and you should watch it. Barnett Baines also made a Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come, which was about Robin Williams going somehow, somewhere, to go and rescue his suicided wife. An interesting movie, and I haven't had a chance to rewatch it. I don't know, Barnett Baines likes to make these kind of spiritual movies that are cocoa pants. But it seems like our reality that we expect to be stable and rational isn't. And then you would say, well, that seems weird, but you got to remember what science teaches us about the discovery of quantum physics in, 1925 by famous people like Heisenberg. That same name that we remember from Breaking Bad, it was a nickname for Walter White. Heisenberg was a very smart person. Niels Bohr, a number of different names from those days. And one of them was quoted in around that time period, 1925, as saying to the press and the people, the population, with quantum physics, he said, if you think, and he'd be talking about other professors and researchers like himself, like Heisenberg, and he would say to all of them, general public and advanced physicists, he would say, from his understanding of what he saw, with the double slit experiments with beams of light, and you might have seen those in high school, films of that. You can probably see it on YouTube, the Unity Tube, because Brent Beeson doesn't want to talk anymore about this because he says he's getting bored. How's it fun to have people who live with you all the time, demonic people, who decide what you're going to do with your life? I'm totally enslaved to this possibly Google Labs technology and the insane devils that are involved with coming to me in this imposed virtual reality. Anyways, somebody like Heisenberg said to all of us, and you can go look up the quote on Google, he said, if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. In other words, it's an impossible thing to fully understand with the human mind. The quantum world, the quantum reality, the convoluted universe. Dolores Cannon's book. It's plural. So it just seems like, we like our world to be rational and ordered. But we're imposing rationality and order on a universe that's not. And when you start having synchronicities in the world where, I don't know, like the first time it happened, before Rumpelstiltskin came, I was in the living room and the TV was on. Thanks, Brent, you motherfucker. I want to kill him. I'm going to kill these devils, just so you know, because they enslave me and they're horrible demonic things. But I don't know how. And no one's come from anywhere that can help me get rid of this shit. So now what were we talking about? That's what Brent Beeson loves to do, is push me off what I'm talking about. Give me this horrible electronic torture and leave me hanging here, leaving you hanging here. You see why I want to kill these fucking devils? I do. How are we going to kill these devils? Because they're going to be wiped out when the third dimensional matrix stops being supported by higher consciousness people like me. How does that happen? I'm not exactly sure, but that is what the story is that I've been given. Is that the old version of Earth, 3D Earth we call it, which was perhaps the Matrix that you saw in the year 2000 movie The Matrix, that matrix has been supplanted by the fifth dimensional matrix, which is overlaid over top of the 3D matrix, the old matrix. And we're all supposed to raise our consciousness on the scale of human consciousness to 540 or higher. Unconditional love, which is what a dog gives you when it's wagging its tail. And when you get up to 540 or higher, there's the new matrix, the 5D matrix, where we're going to live. And the old 3D matrix, where all the low vibe people, including the demonic people like Brent Beeson the devil and Rumpelstiltskin the devil, have to live because they're so low in consciousness. Even though Rumpelstiltskin's very smart, he's not a loving person. And 5D is about love, the green ray of your heart chakra. And humans' big problem is they don't use their heart chakra. So anybody who doesn't open up their heart in order to raise their consciousness up to 540 on the scale of human consciousness, they're not going to be supported on Earth anymore, because that 3D matrix is not going to be there anymore. And the famous example that we can give you of this is in the movie Infinity Wars, where Thanos, the bad guy, made half of the population of the galaxy disappear at the same time, deleted from existence half of the people. And even Spider-Man, in a matter of, 5 seconds, disappeared. And that is what the story is about us going into this fifth dimension. Because anybody who doesn't raise their consciousness up to 540 or higher is not going to have a matrix that's going to support their body or their mind. And they're going to be deleted from existence. So all of these devils that bedevil me, I do expect them to disappear. And I expect a hell of a lot of humans to disappear. Because not that many people, as a percentage of the total world population, are on the kick of raising their consciousness. But more and more people are getting the idea that that's something that they really need to focus on doing, and a lot of my talks have been about this. Now you might ask, why would Rumpelstiltskin, Brent Beeson, Eve the Rat, King Clancy, Wayne Kealoe Powell, and the other devils that bedevil me, they all know this. They know everything I know, and stuff that like Rumpelstiltskin brought along. You would think that they would want to live, and they would think that they would be the first ones on board to raising their consciousness. They don't, and they won't, because they love to torture me more than they love life itself. Is that insane? Yes, but that is the reality of the devils that bedevil me. Is that a convoluted story enough for you? This is me giving you my best explanation of the nature of our reality now. So I was telling you about, I know it. I was, the first time I got a really strong synchronicity, the only time I got a synchronicity at that time, the TV was on. I was reading a book. I had my nose in a book. And the word on the page was Ruby. And at the exact same moment that my eye was looking at Ruby in the book, on the TV, a commercial came on for Ruby Casino. And as soon as I saw the word Ruby in the book, it was the exact time when I heard Ruby from Ruby Casino on the TV. Perfectly timed, those two things, and that's a synchronicity. And that was the start of many, which are pretty much, did I have a synchronicity today? I don't remember today, but most days I get multiple things, and the devils do see it as well. We're used to these synchronicities, and many people do see things like synchronicities, have these experiences. So the world is changing. Our reality is changing. Once you see these synchronicities, they're mind-blowing. Because everything you learn, book learning in high school and even university, they never talk about synchronicities. Never. And they didn't happen. The strangest thing that would ever happen to me when I was 12 years old, walking home from my friend's house at nighttime, sometimes the streetlights would, when I walked by, the streetlight would go out. And then I'd walk to the next streetlight, and the streetlight behind me would come on again. Was that related to my aura? Yes, I think it was. In those days, I just thought it was... I was just a kid, and I don't know, and didn't know anything about streetlights, and maybe that was just what they did. Maybe they got too hot and they had to cool off and turn off. But over many years of walking around with streetlights, seeing strange things happen with streetlights, more modern day. I haven't seen it lately, but a few years ago, I'd be driving around and I'd see streetlights strobing, going into a strobe light. Not supposed to do that, but they did that. Things are very strange in our reality. So there we are at an hour 23, trying to explain Earth Ascension, where it's supposed to be higher consciousness on the planet, in order so that we don't have any more nuclear bombs dropped. It's just that I've never seen a nuclear bomb explosion other than films that were purported to be made in perhaps the 1940s or the 1950s. And they used to tell us on TV when I was a kid of 12 years old that there was quite likely that the Russians were going to get in a nuclear war with us. It's just that modern day, if you go back and you look at those films that were supposed to be of nuclear weapons, many people have looked at them and said, these films could be faked. And you could probably go on YouTube and look up "Are Nuclear Weapons Real?" and see what people have got up there. And from what I looked at, it's like, yeah, these films that I thought were real when I was 12 years old look phony baloney now. Just like the story of the moon landings, the Apollo moon landings from around 1969 when I was 4 years old. I remember, I think the last moonshot was like 1973, so I would have been 8 years old. And I remember seeing it on TV, Walter Cronkite of CBS News, telling us that this was what was real. And most people don't believe it anymore. And I saw on one Instagram video somebody in their garage filmed what looked like a film of the Saturn V rocket blasting off, or just the flames coming out. And this person simulated that same look, exact same look as what they showed on CBS TV in those films of that Saturn V blasting off. And it seems like, you know, somebody in their garage could make it look like it was a Saturn V rocket, even though it was just phony baloney and trick camera work. The story of Walter Cronkite, who we were told was the most trusted man in America, has fallen apart. He was always on the news, and my dad was a news hound and he loved to watch the news. And Walter Cronkite was on from the time I was a little kid. Modern day, the internet has made it clear that Walter Cronkite is the identical person to Walt Disney. Same person. You know, they put one half of a picture of Walter Cronkite on this side and the other half Walt Disney, and it perfectly lines up. It's the same person. So it was all phony baloney that Walter Cronkite was a real person, because it was Walt Disney, who is tied in with the Illuminati, Club 33 at Disney World, where we're still told they do human smuggling of children to go and kidnap them, abuse them, and rape them and kill them. So Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America in those days, was Walt Disney, who is a Masonic Illuminati child molester and child killer. How do you like to swallow that one? These phony baloney people, the internet keeps Instagram those people. Thanks, Brent, you fucking asshole. Horrible creature. Richard Branson. Put Richard Branson, cut him in half and put him on this side, show him half a face, and then put David Icke on the other half. David Icke is Richard Branson. Same guy. Same guy. So David Icke is the famous person who keeps talking about the royal family being reptilian. Like conspiracy theory? David Icke, who was supposed to be a soccer player and then a soccer commentator on the BBC, and then he went nuts and he started talking about the British royal family as somehow having reptilian genetics linked to off-world extraterrestrials. It gets very nutty. Conspiracy theory, yet that person is Sir Richard Branson of Virgin Corp companies. Thanks, Brent, you fucking asshole. So he got a knighthood from Queen Elizabeth, Sir Richard Branson, and his alter ego is David Icke, who says the Queen is somehow related to dinosaurs or extraterrestrials that are reptilian. So everything to do with these ideas that conspiracy theorists come up with come from the Queen herself, because the Queen is clearly best friends with Sir Richard Branson, whose alter ego is David Icke. And there was even pictures of the royal family reading David Icke's early books about them being reptilians. Clearly, they love to fuck with us by telling us all kinds of lies, so many lies that I don't even know if they know the depth of lies. So our whole reality, we're totally brainwashed by these people. So if you think that, after this story that maybe I've lost my grip on reality, no. This is my reality as I know it. And I hope I've explained it well enough. I know there's a lot of strange things in it, but how long have you been seeing 11:11 on digital clocks? Thanks, Brent, you motherfucker. I don't know. Brent says I've been seeing it for, I don't know, 15 years. Have you ever seen these so-called Mandela effect or matrix glitches? I've seen them. Strange things in our reality. And then I saw a video by an advanced Lama from Tibet. And it was about Tibetan dream yoga, where the Tibetan advanced yogi said to all of us, do you remember that childhood song? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. And the advanced Tibetan, he said, it's true. This is a dream. And then you have people on YouTube that talk about lucid dreaming, where you have dreams that are so real, it's almost like your waking life. I never really know. It gets more and more confusing. Oh, there's a really good movie called Waking Life, which goes into some of these strange puzzles about the nature of our reality. Waking Life, a Richard Linklater movie, starring Wiley Wiggins and Ethan Hawke and Julie, whatever her name is, Ethan's girlfriend in those days. A fantastic movie. It was so good that I bought the DVD back in the day. So get that one. So watch that movie, Waking Life, and make sure you watch the Celestine Prophecy movie to get an idea about the jump from 3D Earth into the more beautiful version of Earth, where everyone is love and wonderful. Fifth dimensional Earth. In the meantime, I am holding space here in Thunder Bay. This is my job. My job is to be here and hold space at 600 on the scale of human consciousness. Why Thunder Bay? Well, my hometown, but, was I planted here in order to be here now? Yes, because I haven't left Thunder Bay in the general area for, I don't know, Brent says probably 13 years. I haven't been more than, 120 miles from Thunder Bay. Mostly I'm just in Thunder Bay. What's so special about Thunder Bay? Well, I think people, starseeds are located all over various parts of the Earth in order to hold space, to help the other humans wake up and raise their consciousness in the scale of human consciousness. And then it brings up this idea of ley lines, L-E-Y. This was a subject that was brought up to us in Great Britain. Energy lines between megalithic structures like Stonehenge and the great cathedrals, Rosslyn Castle, Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. Energetic lines where earth energies flow through. Ley lines, L-E-Y, L-I-N-E-S, which seem to correspond to the idea of the acupuncture lines that come from Chinese medicine and philosophy. Acupuncture lines, acupressure lines, acupuncture meridians on the human body, energetic lines of energy flow. So the Earth has her own things called ley lines. Now, where was I going with ley lines? So here in Thunder Bay, well, I don't know if you can see, it's gone dark, but out the window here, the cars driving by, if you can see them, are on the very northern end of Highway 61, which runs between Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and it goes south all the way down to New Orleans, Louisiana. So we think that that is a ley line that goes north-south on the planet, and here I am. And, well, right out the window where Highway 61 ends, there's a series of Thunder Bay highways that connect you up to the Trans-Canada Highway that runs from Vancouver in the west to Halifax on the east, across Canada. Another energy line, another ley line. So here I am, where these two ley lines meet. And because I think I'm the highest consciousness person in Thunder Bay, because nobody else knows all the shit that I know, because it's just, I'm a very good student. I told you, I got a Bachelor of Science and an MBA. I have a very curious mind. And I'm a voracious reader, a voracious leader of the demonic people here who consider me to be their scribe. It's another story. Well, because they like to get credit for being around here, even though they're torturing me on Canada Day. It's not Canada Day, they're just doing gobbledygook. Anyways, here I am holding space at 600 where these two ley lines meet in order to help everybody else on the planet raise their consciousness, because I told you earlier in this video about holding space. How do I know that I'm the highest consciousness person in Thunder Bay? Muscle testing. If you want to raise your consciousness really fast up to where I am, there's a really easy method. It's called the Bobby Burrows technique. That's what Brent Beeson and I don't know, some of the other devils called it. And you can see my video, if it's still up on YouTube, where you're going to find this one, right under sort of like the description of my channel, there's a link directly to that YouTube, the Bobby Burrows technique, which is the most easy thing. You won't even think of it as being a spiritual technique. And I might as well give it to you here in the short form. What you do is when you wake up in bed or on the couch and you feel like you need to pee, don't get up off the couch or don't get out of bed and go pee. Instead, relax your body, relax your body, relax your body, and don't get out of bed. And keep consciously relaxing your body. In other words, don't tell your body, don't make your body get up out of bed to go pee. Now, everybody can go long periods of time when they know, they're getting a signal from their bladder that, you could go pee, but, you're busy or whatever, and it's like, well, I can delay going pee. You're in a car for a long car ride and there's nowhere to pull over. You can hold your pee for a long period of time. So do that. Just don't react to the signal to go pee. And wait. And focus on relaxing your body. Relax, you're going to relax your, whatever, just lie in bed. Sometimes, some people will wake up and they got to go pee, but it's like, I don't want to go pee. I want to stay in my warm bed, and I know it's kind of uncomfortable because the signal is to go pee, but, people will do that. I've done it before where it's just like, I'm too tired to get up and go pee right now, and I'm just going to go and sometimes fall back asleep when, you could have gone pee. So don't get your body up out of bed. Wait. Don't. Whatever you do, don't force your body to get up. I'm prepared to wait for, 4 hours. Can you do 4 hours without peeing? If you wake up at 8, can you wait till noon? It might not take you that long. But in this technique, keep relaxing your body with the intention of going 4 hours without peeing when you feel the need to pee. And the magic thing that happens is that when you continue to relax, don't follow that instruction from your bladder to get up and go pee. Your body will get up on its own and walk to the bathroom and go pee on its own. And the first time this happened, I was amazed. But it really does. And you're going to say, how the hell does that work? But you all talk about muscle memory. You get the perfect golf swing into your muscle memory. How to drive a car. It's very hard when you first learn how to drive a car. There's so many things to pay attention to. But once you've driven a car for a certain amount of time, or learning to ride a bike, a little bit hard when you first start, but once you've got it, you never forget. So the muscle memory is in your body. And that's what you're going to let run your body. The muscle memory of the body itself. And you're going to keep doing this, relaxing your body more and more, so that the body can go and do what the body wants to do, rather than you, as the mind, telling the body what to do. This comes from a Matt Kahn teaching. Matt Kahn is a spiritual teacher on YouTube. And Matt Kahn lecture is called Stopping the Internal Conflict. Matt Kahn, you can listen to that. And that's where the inspiration was to do this Bobby Burrows technique. Because Matt Kahn says, your job now is to train yourself to be an angel rather than a human. And angels do not enslave other things. And Matt said in his lecture, we, as our mind, enslave our body. You know, when you force your body to go no pain, no gain for muscle building or whatever, Matt would say, you shouldn't do that because you are forcing this body to do things that, you know, maybe it doesn't want to do that. Maybe it doesn't want to have pain. And he said that's how you train to be an angel. First thing you do is you learn to be an angel to your body. You as the mind become an angel to the body by stop telling the body what to do. And then earlier I gave you the talk where I left the one motel and Brent Beeson kept telling me, there's a motel, why don't you go there? There's a motel going there. And it's like, I can't go there, Brent, because I let go of control of my body through this Bobby Burrows technique. And, you know, throughout the day, just relaxing the body and saying to my feet, well, let's go for a walk. And over time, I can't regain control of this body. I can help the body as an angel. I can help it breathe. If I'm having a hard time breathing because I've got demonic attack or something, then I can help the body breathe by, you know, assisting it. But the body consciousness knew to go to that motel, the next motel, where there was a room that I could have. And the body's consciousness, we think, comes from the heart chakra, and the heart doesn't explain itself to the mind, which drives the monkey mind crazy. And everybody walking around here is a monkey mind, except for you, if you do the Bobby Burrows technique. What does that do? Well, it raises your consciousness way up because you're no longer enslaving your body. You become an angelic, and probably on the scale of human consciousness, I don't know, around 600 where I am is where David R. Hawkins said that's where you raise your consciousness to 600. That's where, you know, you get your angel wings. Now, I don't look like I have angel wings, and I don't feel like I have angel wings, but that's what David R. Hawkins, the expert in teaching us enlightenment, that's what he said. So, an hour and 43 minutes into my video, have I put things into perspective? Thank you for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you watch the video, just so Brent Beeson and the other devils know that somebody watched it.